Hello everyone, I'm Radhika. In this presentation, I'm going to present my work on early smart speaker adopters in urban India. We were motivated to investigate the use of smart speakers in India for three reasons. First, most prior work, though insightful, has explored the long-term use and have designed and developed voice agents in Western context. Thus, their findings may not reflect use practices and preferences in non-Western contexts, such as India. Smart speakers were introduced in 2017 in India and thereafter have been gaining popularity and might be even on the path to become ubiquitous in Indian households. Our second reason was that while on one hand there are several reasons which might make use of people in India similar to that of Western users, such as Google Home supports the native language of people in India, or at least 44% of the population, that is Hindi. 12% of this population also speaks Hindi, and many English speakers work in technology industries, and almost everyone is impacted by globalization and transnationalism in India, all of which might make their use very similar to that of Western users. On the other hand, while cultural norms are dynamic and enacted through everyday practices, researchers have suggested that there are differences between India and West in terms of available infrastructure and social and cultural norms, which might lead to variations in user practices. To answer our research questions, we recruited participants from 20 families living in urban India. We began recruiting participants through personal contacts and social media and followed it up with snowball and purposeful sampling. We first collected long-term Google Home activity logs from all the members of 20 households. In the end, we collected more than 70,000 commands uttered by members of 20 families, including children. We also conducted interviews with one member from each generation living in the household. In the interviews, we inquired about reasons for adopting the device, purposes and constraints in using it, the most and least favorite skill they used it for, and their perceptions about benefits and limitations of using the device. While the command logs were coded deductively using the command categories identified by our previous work on Google Home, used by families in the US, we coded the interviews inductively. For the analysis of interviews, the three authors engaged in collaborative sense-making through memo writing and extended conversations after independently reading and coding transcripts. Finally, four themes emerged in an analysis which I will elaborate on next. The first theme was about adopting and placing the device. The smart speakers were brought into urban households largely as gifts. After installation, the devices were considered household property and anybody could access them at any time, although stay-at-home mothers often enjoyed autonomous use of them through most of the day. However, families considered the device to be movable and often changed its location during the day based on their needs. For example, one participant noted, "We kept our speakers primarily in living room because it's not like a private mobile phone that one carries with oneself. It is a shared device. For example, my children would often take it to their bedrooms at the time of doing homework as it allows them to quickly check for a fact in a hands-free mode." The second theme was about learning patterns of household members. Here we talk about the learning of older adults and adults. They learn from relations who give the device to them, their children or grandchildren, or they co-learn with each other through trial and error. They learned appropriate communication repair strategies or even memorized commands as they were not fluent in any of the languages supported by the device. Trial and error proved to be difficult because when users tried to use the device in English despite not being fluent in it, it caused problems. Despite persistent failures, though, the attempts persisted over time as participants recognized the social value of learning English in private spaces, and they thought this would be a perfect way to improve their language skills. Trial and error also failed when Google Home's responses failed to provide clues about their mistakes and therefore could not advance the interaction. The children insisted to using the devices only in English as they believed that using a vernacular would further slow them down. While parents in the US are known to help children repair their communication breakdowns, many of the parents who participated in our study could not do the same, and instead they relied on the children to learn. Therefore, in such families, the children turn to internet searches, to their friends, or to older siblings to improve their own interaction style with the speaker. The figure here shows mothers' use as a percentage of use in a 24-hour day. To summarize, working mothers use the device more for functional or utilitarian purposes as opposed to stay-at-home mothers who used it more for entertainment or household work. For example, while cooking, for seeking recipes, or for grocery shopping and making lists. The figure shows children's use as a percentage of use in a 24-hour day. The children in our sample used the device primarily to play games or seek knowledge, and they persistently engaged in conversations with smart speakers through questions characteristic of the social norms of conversations, through small talk, or by expressing emotions and using phrases like please and thank you. This pattern closely resembles the use of children in the West as well. Use of grandparents consisted of commands from fewer categories and was less frequent than that of other members of the household. In few households, the older adults were not fluent in either language and they spoke local dialects of Hindi and therefore used the smart speakers only for functionalities they already were familiar with, as they had learned or memorized the commands. However, even when older adults were fluent in one or both languages, most were uncomfortable with adopting a new mode of interaction and had problems learning communication repair strategies, and therefore they used the devices only sparingly. This is in contrast with perception of older adults in the US who have been reported to perceive the use of smart speakers to be easy. Finally, grandparents used smart speakers when they perceived their use would not disturb other adult members or impede their use. In contrast to other members of the families, except for one grandmother, none of the grandparents moved the device from living areas based on their needs. In our dataset, which spans use over 41 weeks on average across families, we noticed that the device was not used for 19 weeks on average. Furthermore, 6 of the participating families had at least one member who had completely stopped using the device at the time of the study. Therefore, we probed about their reasons of non-use or abandonment. The first reason was Google Home not being able to understand the context. One participant noted that the living area is the busiest place in the house. In the middle of all of this, if one of the children decides to ask something to Google Home, it will just wait endlessly for the command to complete as it fails to distinguish other voices from the one that is meant for it. Therefore, I use the device only when nobody is around or when I can ask the others to keep quiet for a moment. The second reason was related to infrastructural issues such as loss of electricity or bad internet connection. For example, a participant noted, just before leaving to work I used to check weather and traffic, but during the summer months I could not do it as we did not get electricity in the morning between 6 and 9 a.m. As the majority of my interactions used to be in the morning hours, I hardly used the device in those ones. During our interviews, 2 factors emerged that evoked negative emotions in users, which in turn led them to give up the use temporarily or permanently. First one was while learning a new functionality, little help was given by Google Home. That led to frustration. Second reason was because Google Assistant does not fare well in English or code mixing, which also irritated people. Our participant considered Google Home to be a shared entity and using it to be a shared experience due to its interactive modality, and therefore refrained from accessing content in front of others that they thought could be construed as embarrassing, for example a song, or that they thought could be misinterpreted, seeking information on a sensitive topic. The participant noted, when I am alone, I listen to whatever kinds of songs I want to. However, when others are around, I might, for example, not play some Govinda, an Indian actor's song, as they are my secret love. Similarly, I do not Google search for stuff that I do not want others to know about. Participants mentioned using the device only through their profiles. This allowed them to create an impression of openness, which is a value that many of our participants and Indian society in general values, while also allowing them to maintain some privacy. A participant noted, I always use the device through my profile. but it is like a semi-private space in that everybody can hear when I'm adding stuff to the list, but they cannot access it without my approval. In the end, I would like to present two of the design implications that came from the work. Further details and implications are present in the paper. First design recommendation is that Google Home-like devices could also collaborate with users and help them communicate their intentions by posing clarifying questions, by giving explicit directions for repairing communication breakdowns, or by giving them a small range of options to choose from that are associated with specific common tasks. For instance, in response to the command, please play a song from Maine Pyar Kiya, a name of a Bollywood movie, a smart speaker, if it is unable to understand the name of the song, could reply, I'm having trouble in understanding what you want to play. Please repeat the name of the song, or something similar. This way, by asking for clarification of a single lexical item while preserving the context of a query, conversation agents will also reduce the production burden, especially for those who are not fluent in language or are bilingual. These people are known to face an increased cognitive burden when retrieving lexical items across multiple languages without external help. Scholars have called upon researchers to investigate whether a device should provide a comprehensive explanation of the trouble it has understanding user's command, or provide an option to start over again if the user is unable to progress in an interaction. Based on our findings, we argue that many people in India and other cultures, for example other countries in South Asia, who value learning English like our participants, will prefer the former, as this might not only help them repair their communication breakdowns, but in the process also help them to improve their English language skills. Our second design implication is about supporting context-based interaction and privacy. Google Home should allow for a possibility to alter interactions based on social context. For example, who is surrounding a person when the command is being given. Google Home should also differentiate background noise or parallel discussions from commands. Decade-long research from UBCOM and HCI has shown that understanding and identifying context dynamically is a near impossible task. So we suggest that system should first show a message on one's phone and ask for who is around, and then give the response either on the speaker or privately on the phone. Thank you for listening, and further details can be found in our paper online.